Glenmore Trenear-Harvey is a former British intelligence officer and editor-in-chief of the World Intelligence Review. Quite an incredible story. What are you and your contacts hearing about this?
You're absolutely right. It is an incredible story. It's straight from the Cold War days. In fact, given that these alleged illegals will have been insinuated into the United States 10 or 11 years ago, that's back in the days of Yeltsin, before he broke up the KGB. And it is classic, almost John le Carré stuff of brush passes, dead letter drops, assuming legends and such like. However, there is an overlay of the digital age. They are using Wi-Fi, their own private Wi-Fi, and something called steganography, which buried, as anyone knows when you send an email with an attachment, a photographic attachment, buried inside that photograph in the equivalent a digital microdot is information that they could send back to Moscow. But it really is extraordinary. I find the most extraordinary thing of all, though, not the spying, it's the timing. Why now, just after Medvedev and Obama had that famous munching away at their hamburgers together?
Do you think the US is using this to get something out of Russia now?
I don't think so. I think because they apparently did get off to a pretty good start, both at the G8 and at the G20, that at some point the United States would have to, demonstrate that they had picked up these 10 or 11 people. And by doing it in a fashion, first of all, it wasn't Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State, who announced this, and it certainly wasn't the President. It came lower down from the Justice Department. So I think it's a sort of a balancing. It's sending a message to Russian intelligence that the Americans, the FBI, had these people under surveillance for so long, and indeed ran an operation where they enticed some of these alleged spies to take actions that expose themselves. So I think it's part of the constant spying that does go on between nations. And if you look at what they were attempting to get, the information and intelligence, how absolutely superb. The point is, it would better inform the Kremlin as to what the attitude of the American authorities were. So,
yes, what does it tell you about their mission? We know that they were trying to get information on nuclear warheads, on foreign policy towards Russia.
Yes, the only sort of military thing was that nuclear warhead thing, but it was the attitude to the Middle East, what the attitude would have been in regard to Iran or nuclear proliferation. Well, I think that's important that the Russians should know that. Obviously, they're regular diplomats and they're, reading. There's something called OSINT, open source intelligence. It's what you see on Al Jazeera. It's what you read in the Wall Street Journal. So there should be no mystery about the American position. What they were wanting from those illegals is, as a journalist would, someone to stand up the story. You wanted confirmation from other quarters. So although today the Russians would be hugely embarrassed, with Sergei Lavrov, the foreign minister at the moment in Israel, seeking explanation from the Americans. Well, I'm sure he already has that delivered via the State Department.
I'm sure you just wonder how it is delivered. Very briefly, if you will, why have they not been charged with espionage, and how do you prove espionage?
Well, usually espionage often involves an officer recruiting an agent, and then you find them that way. They've been charged, as I understand it, with not registering as foreign agents. That's a bit of a laugh. And the other thing, of course, is money laundering. These are really quite minor charges, and even if they're proven to be effective, I don't imagine they will get more than a few years jail, or maybe just be deported back to Russia.
Glenmore Trenear-Harvey, I wish we could talk about this a lot longer. It's fascinating. Thank you for talking to us from London.